Hi guys, welcome back again to Life Education's podcast. A little bit different lineup today. We have Jamie sitting in for Caroline, Caroline's away in Australia at the moment. And Jamie is part of the team here at Life Education. So welcome, Jamie, to your
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Co-hosting.
Apologies for the downgrade on Caroline, but we'll see how we go on.
It's a little bit different looking at this compared to looking at Caroline, but
I hope so.
It's okay. We won't talk about who's better. And we were at Lee Grantham.
That's right.
Lee Grantham is marathon runner, ultra marathon runner competitor from the UK.
That's right.
Yeah, elite athlete, Great Britain team member, runs for England, sponsored Nike athlete, and living between Thailand and Spain.
That's right. Yep.
So we had a little back and forth on Instagram where we requested you on your story, and you said our people will talk to your people, and here we are. Our people have spoken to his people, and he's here with us in Dubai from Thailand, like Jamie said. Anyway, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, your background, and how you ended up becoming an ultra runner?
Yeah, so I ran track and field as a kid and did pretty much every sport you can possibly think of. And then 2008, 2009, I took a sabbatical, did some cycle touring in Southeast Asia, and just refound a love for endurance, and then started running again. And then from sort of 2009, 2010 to 2017, I was able to make the England team for the marathon, and then the year after the Great Britain team for ultramarathon running, so 100k in the World Championships. So yeah.
So how do you go from just running around to then doing the marathon, to then prepping enough time and setting enough time aside to do an ultra, and then getting on the GB team?
Yeah, good question. I suppose it's a question of how much you want it, yeah, as with anything in life. And so when I had that sabbatical, I went cycle touring. It was sort of like a gap where I could really think about what I wanted to do with my life. And I've said this quite a lot of times, but it still rings true. It's when primary school teachers asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I never said I wanted to be a headhunter. I never said I wanted to be a recruiter or what I was working in for 12 years. It was always, I wanted to be a footballer.
Yeah.
And I was terrible at football.
For who?
For Oldham Athletic.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, biggest team in the UK. And
biggest team in Oldham.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Not even the biggest team in Oldham. And the next was always a runner. I always wanted to be a runner. And so the fact that I can do that now and do it professionally is really good. But the journey from sort of having that sabbatical, realising that that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to be a professional runner. And I remember going for my first run in Thailand and thinking, I'll just run for 10k, go for an hour run or whatever, getting 400 meters down the road after cycling 220, 230k a day to cycle tour from Bangkok to Singapore, having loads of fitness but not specific running fitness, getting 400 meters down the road and thinking, Jesus, that's how much fitness I've lost. To now I've got something that I really sort of I really want to get good at, and I know I've been good at it before, so the progress curve is going to be steep. And then thinking, right, if somebody else can do it, I can do it. Yeah. And that's how I think pretty much about anything. I don't think I'm better than somebody, but I just don't think I'm worse than somebody or something.
So you said that you did whatever cycling. What was it? What did you just breeze past there as if that was nothing?
Yeah, so
220, 230 a day, just
cycling.
Just cycling.
Yeah, so I was living in Thailand, so I was meant to be there for a few weeks. And if you've ever been to Southeast Asia, that's what everybody does, goes for a few weeks and ends up staying for years. So that's what I did, and then decided to buy a bike, sort of do some cycling, and then thought, okay, look at the map, right, I'll go from maybe Bangkok to Hua Hin, which is about 250k, and then you look at the map, you just think, it's only about that much more to go to Phuket. I'll just go to Phuket, it's 1,000 kilometers, I'll do it in 10 days, 100k a day is quite easy. And then he's like, Malaysia's just there, yeah? And then you're like, okay, it'd be cool to cross the border with your passport and your bike.
You had your passport with you?
Yeah, passport, credit card, bit of money.
So you're prepared for this?
Yeah, I was prepared. I prepared. I trained for a good 3 weeks, yeah?
Okay.
And this is, I suppose, again, this is part of ultra running. Yeah? You have to be delusional. You have to be a bit wild and a bit crazy to think that it's possible, because everything is possible. It's just a case of putting it into small chunks, buying it off. And then I looked at Malaysia. It was like, okay, just go to KL. That'd be good. Bangkok to KL would be quite cool. I'd be like, but there's another country just there, like 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters on the map. Just ride those 3 centimeters, yeah, and get to Singapore. And then my friend was having a New Year's Eve party in Singapore on the 31st of, must have been like 2009, 2010. So he said, if you can get here in 10 days, you can come to that party. And so rather than like take my time over 20 days, decided to do it quickly in 10 days. And so I got there in 10 days.
What was that per day, average?
So literally 220k a day.
What's
so
the total distance?
2,250 kilometers or something like that.
Biking man on man has just finished here with 1,000k in 4 or 5 days. The good guys are doing it in 4, and the amateurs are doing it in 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
We did double that in the same rate.
So you did double that in double the time, which is actually even more difficult, because by the end of it, you'd expect those last few to take longer.
Yeah,
exactly. Because the endurance
You're
piece.
so tired, yeah.
I mean, the amount of stories I got along the way is just some of them are hilarious. Like hallucinating, sort of like staying in the best hotels for £10 a night, staying in the worst hotels you could possibly imagine for £3 a night, staying on a concrete bed that seems like the most luxury you've seen all day, because you're in that much sort of like you're so tired, like just looks like a great hotel, yeah. And there's the amount of lizards in the room, and you have to tape up the curtains because there's no windows in the hotel room, that sort of stuff, and seeing tarantulas along the way, seeing just crazy stuff. And
what were you hallucinating and seeing?
A lot of insects, a lot of snakes.
Oh, that's the worst.
Because sometimes I'd overshoot a town, and you think, okay, there must be a hotel in that town. There wasn't so much Booking.com, and obviously in these like very remote towns in the south of Thailand, it's not so easy just to get out your phone and look for Booking.com and find something. So you have to get to the town and hope there's a hotel. And then once the sun goes down, my lights were to be seen, not to see. So I would cycle. The worst day was like 3 hours in the dark, and then you can just hear something coming behind you, a vehicle, and hope that it misses you. But then you've got jungle sounds that are like, if you've ever been in a jungle at night, it's
maybe
like, and then you know there's
alive.
There's big stuff in there as well, yeah. So, but yeah, it's all good fun. It was a good story.
And you made it for the party.
Made it for the party, yeah. Made it for the party, and didn't make it out on the night out, which was didn't make it past 12 o'clock because I was so tired.
Got to the party and slept.
Got to the party and slept in the nicest bed you could possibly imagine. It felt amazing after all that time. Yeah.
And then did you go home after?
Stayed a few days and then flew back to Bangkok and then went to Ohio. Yeah.
Cop out, fly back.
Yeah.
I was considering going back because there's a lot of headwind on the way, so I thought if I go back, it's been really easy. But by that point, I'd slit the inside of my leg. So, I mean, this is not a nice story, but like every single pedal stroke hurt because there's a slit in between, like literally on my groin.
Like a chafing kind of skin.
Worse than that, like an actual slit.
Like the skin, like it's come apart.
Completely come apart, yeah. So I had to go in the shop, and at first tissues weren't working because they were getting too sweaty. So I had to literally buy a Tampax,
right, put
it in my shorts, and it didn't really help. But psychologically, for the last sort of 2 days, it was every single pedal stroke hurt. But yeah.
I suppose you don't have a choice at that stage.
No, you don't have a choice, no.
You got to keep going.
And also another funny story was when you get onto the Malaysian motorway, it's like one motorway from the Thai border all the way to Singapore. It's the same motorway. And at first it's great because every 100 meters is marked. You think, great, 100 meters, 200 meters, through. And then after 3K, like, don't look at that sign because it's killing you, right? It's killing you. And once I'd got to the bottom of Malaysia, I was about 50K from the border of Singapore. Police pulled me over and said, "You're not allowed to drive on this road."
Yeah.
Like, where have you come from? It's like, Thai border at the top. You've been on this road the entire time. Yeah. Okay. You got to go around.
Did they make you go around?
Yeah, so maybe go around like an extra 30K. So I got an escort to the next junction, which was about 8K. And then they showed me the way. They were really cool. But it's like at that point when I'm like, okay, it's 3 o'clock. The party starts at 8. I've got to be there. So stuff like that is just hilarious looking back, but at the time, it's just
yeah. And so after that, you decided to no more cycling. You're going to run.
Kept cycling whilst I had my bike, but then just adding running on top of it.
So that was that journey was a catalyst to where you are now, really, in terms of this part of your career.
100%. So if you like before this, I was playing rugby. I've lived in quite a few countries. So I was playing rugby when I lived in Spain. I was playing football when I lived in Norway and Sweden, and then I was just with the rugby. I'm 5'10" on a good day, yeah, and like. On the wing, I was quick compared to the bigger guys, but I needed to build muscle, so I was in the gym a lot. So I was in the gym twice a day, and I became, sort of don't realize it when you're bodybuilding, but you became really quite big and like low body fat. And then looking back, it was just, I suppose bodybuilding now, I look at it like it's a lot of it's fueled by, it's positive, people are doing something active, but a lot of it's fueled by vanity and insecurity if it's not necessarily leading to a sport. So I look back on that period that I wasn't doing it necessarily just for the sport. It was also to compete against other guys in the gym to be the biggest guy in town, sort of thing. And that's just negative energy. As far as I'm concerned, like going to the gym and just dumping energy and not using it specifically for a sport, it's not where you want to be. So I was 85 kilograms. And now I'm 62, so I've lost 23 kilograms, and most of that came off in the first sort of 9 months of starting running.
Yeah. How did you get your head around that? If you've been going to the gym to get bulked up,
just a totally different buzz. So like you go to the gym and you felt the pump, right? So there's something from that. You feel good, you feel sore afterwards, and then like your muscles rebuilding, the fibers rebuilding. That's all a great feeling, and also aesthetically, like looking in the mirror and thinking, right, okay, I'm improving in this area, but your perspective is off because you're looking in the mirror too much, yeah. Whereas now it's endorphins, it's measurable because it's distance and time, and it's competition.
More tangible competition.
Totally more tangible competition. So if you win a race, you've won a race.
Yeah.
You're the first to cross the line. Whereas if I was to compete in bodybuilding, or anybody competes in bodybuilding, that's subjective.
It's quite subjective, yeah, for sure.
So it's totally, yeah. So I love that. And if you look at like Paul Newman, who is an actor and then a racing car driver, he wanted to be remembered as a racing car driver because he loved that in Hollywood it was critical and subjective how good his films were, but the first to cross the line was the winner, and that's how I view it. And it's the competition that I love. I really love it. Yeah.
So how long have you been running now then? Like how long have you been doing it to this day?
So 9 years. This is my 9th year. Yeah.
And what did your career look like from the time you wanted, right, I'm going to do it, to get to the stage now where you're looking at the ultras?
Yeah, so I moved from Thailand to Sweden, and pretty much said that, okay, one day I'm going to be a professional runner. And my girlfriend at the time was like, no, you're not. Look at the size of you, you idiot. Like, have some perspective. Right?
This is when you were still 85 kilograms.
This is when I was still big, and I was probably like down to 77 or something like that. Like, look at every other Kenyan, African on the start line is 55 kilograms. The best British guys are 60 to 65. Like, it's just not possible. You're not thinking straight. So I was like, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong, because if somebody tells you can't do something, that's massive fuel. So from 2010, then I got very, very quickly got decent, right? So I did, my first race was 10K, Bupa 10K in Manchester. Did 40 minutes, 39 something, so broke 40 minutes for 10K, which is decent, but obviously nowhere near where I'm at now. And I remember that first race, and I remember all the feelings that I had from being a kid, doing track and field, being on the start of a 1500 meter race, or being on the start of a cross country race, all those butterflies, all those looking around thinking, who looks tidy today, who looks in shape, I've got to beat all these guys. And then me being a 40 minute 10K runner on the start line of Bupa 10K, when you've got like Haile Gebrselassie, Mo Farah looking around thinking, you got to beat these guys today, yeah? And then stopping after 3K because I'm knackered, because I'm completely, I've not learned how to pace myself yet, not learned all these things. And then the next
I had the same problem on my recent first 10K.
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Next we're going to talk about your running career, yeah.
It's a fledgling career. We're right at the beginning. There's a little bit of work to do for sure.
But then the next race, a friend of mine in Spain said, okay, well, if you do that, if you can run 10K, you run 50K, yeah? I was like, what do you mean 50K? It goes up to 42K, doesn't it? Marathon's the longest you run. So then I heard about ultra running, and somebody somebody basically bet me, I bet you can't do this race, where you start at city level in a place called Granada, where I now live, and you finish on the 4th highest mountain in Spain called Valletta, and it's 3,400 meters. So you go up 2,700 meters in 50k, average gradient of 6-7%. I was like, it just doesn't sound possible, but I'm game. Yeah, if somebody bets you, you're in. Yeah, and then so training for that in Sweden, which is flat as a pancake, having to be in the gym on a treadmill at an incline, and just that sort of like the mentality of it. Okay, I've got a goal, and if I don't do the training, I'm going to get found out on race day.
Yeah,
that's where I really figured it out, and then my sole purpose was to finish the race under the cut-off time of 8 hours, and I did it in 5 hours 18.
Really?
Yeah.
100k?
50k.
Okay, 50.
I just made that sound terrible now, Keith. Like, it was 50k, not 100k.
Well, and what did you do then?
5 hours 18.
Well, I did 42k in 4:44, and I was dying.
It's probably, but it's not pain, it's suffering, yeah? So it's temporary.
Yeah, it's not pain. You're right, it's not pain. It's the type of thing that once you're there, you're on it. It's like, I have to finish this race. I'm here now, like, I'm not stopping.
Yeah.
Because I did just quick story, I did the Dubai Marathon in 2016 and grossly underprepared for it. Didn't completely underestimate it, like, put my hand up, cramped up about 29k and walked to the end of the track. Got the medal, yeah, you did it. 5 hours 37 it was. And everyone's like, well, at least you finished it, And I was like, yeah, but if you know the course, you start at one point, you go all the way down the road, you do a U-turn and you come back. That meant my car was at the start line, which is where the finish line was. Exactly. So I had no option. It wasn't like a circle where in the middle I just finished and I cut across the streets. My car is that way, so I either go left and walk off the course or just walk all the way down the course and get to my car. So it was a case of, I'm definitely going to finish
literally
this.
Getting home was your motivation?
Yeah, it was like, because that was it. Because the thing was, I'm thinking, the only way I'm going to crash out of this is if I sit on the footpath.
Yeah.
You know,
if you stop, cramp up.
The van or the ambulance or the moped picks me up. I was like, I'm not that guy. I'm going to walk. I'll hobble. I'll do whatever. Complete cramp, the whole lot. Everything was gone. Worst experience ever. But even before I got to the finish line, I was like, right, I'm going to have to do this again. This was a complete failure. So then, fast forward a couple of years later, booked again. Ended up going to Sri Lanka a month before the event, which I shouldn't have done. It was a New Year period. Came back 2 weeks out, dropped to the 10k, and then, like we briefly spoke about before, one of my clients booked on to the Vietnam Marathon, and then that was like, right, well, if you're doing it, I'll do it. And we've spoken about it before on the podcast, but we actually passed each other on that track, which was our first meeting.
Yeah, I met you after, didn't I, for the first time?
I saw you, distinguishable look, very...
Why is that?
Anybody listening, get out your phone and look. What's your Instagram? Just while we're there,
jungle.vip.
There you go. You'll see what.
I don't think I'm by the way, I don't think I'm a VIP over the jungle, which is a misconception. It's from the Jungle Book.
The Jungle Book, the song.
So I'm calling myself a monkey, but people think I'm quite arrogant because I'm Jungle VIP, which is,
double-edged sword, isn't it? Can go either way.
But as soon as you read Jungle VIP, you start singing the song.
Yeah, for me, yeah. But for a lot of people out there, get some nasty, it's painful to receive these direct messages. It hurts.
But it's not pain, it's just uncomfort.
It's just suffering.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so then talking about now, like, when you're on the trail, 100k, at the start you're feeling great, and at the end you're feeling great. How much of the middle are you suffering for?
Yeah, if you absolutely, I've nailed 100k, yeah, and I've ran over 100k, and I've ran 2 serious 100ks and flat, and this year hopefully I'll run another one, if not next year, for the World Championships. And I feel as if I've nailed one. Like, I've gone in with a plan. It's not a case of, like, I've run marathons and thought, okay, I'll run at a certain pace. Like 2 weeks ago I did Chiang Mai Marathon, and it's like, okay, I'll run at a certain pace, but if somebody's racing, somebody's ahead, I'm not going to let them get ahead. I'll race the race instead. So you don't have to stick to your plan because it's only a marathon. You can't do that in 100k. You've got to stick to what you're capable of, and you've got to know from the training what you are capable of. So it's things like heart rate, sort of how to take nutrition along the way, how to keep your salt levels and your hydration at the right level. Because if something goes wrong, even with 15k to go, it's not possible to get to the finish line. You see it in Ironman a lot, where you see people crawling across the finish line because mentally they've shut down. The mind has told the body it's no longer able to get 200 meters to the end after running sort of for 8-9 hours, right? So you can't sort of not have a plan. So I planned to run 4-minute kilometers, which would have been 6:40, and I ran 6:42. So it was just the perfect race, if you like, and that's still the 5th, 6th fastest British time of all time. Okay. So that's another great thing about running. It's like you're not just competing against the guys on the start line. Yeah. You're competing against everybody from all time, which is pretty cool, I think.
Roger Bannister.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And so now we've got in the 100k you've got the Japanese guys that are super strong. The Americans always bring like a strong team. The South Africans have got the fastest ultra race in the world that I'm doing this year in June, which is called Comrades Marathon, and that's 90k uphill. And South Africa, it's prize money involved. When there's prize money involved, the Africans show up and they bring the best guys.
Yeah. We saw actually when we were walking across the start finish line of the 10k. Yeah, the fans in the crowd going crazy, as big as the England fans at the World Cup. Yeah, absolutely loving it.
Much more prominent than I thought it would be.
Yeah, they were loving it.
Grandstands, the whole shebang.
Flags. They were obviously when it was super early in the morning as well. When the lead guys were finishing 2 hours in, we were only getting started on our side of the road. So then, like, what kind of message would you want to give out there for people thinking about doing marathons? Because I've done it, and I did it because an old friend of mine, long time ago, just described his experience of a Sydney marathon in the mid-2000s. I thought that's something I'm going to have to do someday just to see what that's like. Yeah. So that's why I did it, which might be a bit loopy, but loads of my friends are like, how can you ever consider doing that? Running so boring, running like it's just, how your knees, my knees would go. Another friend of mine tells me he'd lose too much weight if he tried to do it, and he shouldn't be losing weight because he's a professional personal trainer, so he should know his diets. Yeah. But we won't mention his name. Yeah. So like, how do you combat that? You must get that when you're chatting to people.
Yeah, I think, people will find an excuse. If somebody doesn't want to do something, they're not going to do it, yeah? So if you've ever spent time around gyms and personal trainers in January, it's packed full of people, yeah? Come February, March, empty again, it's great. So you have to take that initial motivation and turn it into habit. We formed habits when we were kids, and unless you replace one of those habits with something more positive or a different habit, you're not going to be able to do it. So unless you turn that initial motivation, which is usually just 30 to 40 days of focused effort, going to go to the gym, it's going to be first thing in the morning or set time, you're not going to be able to do it. So it's the same with running. It's like, and have small goals initially. So a lot of people jump into the marathon, and then they'll do the training and realize that, they do have knee problems, sort of thing. Because there's certain things with running. It's just like a car. I mean, the very, very basics of it are, if your toe, ankle, knee, and hip is not lined up when you're hitting the ground, and you're not hitting the ground at a certain part of your foot, then like a car that's the camber is off slightly, then one of the tires is going to wear down faster. So then if you take that on to run a marathon, and you're talking like 100, 200 repetitions, hitting the ground every single minute, 3, 4, 5 hours, you're going to have issues, yeah? So my advice would simply be if you're going to get into it, make it as fun as possible, first of all. So you want to make it fun so it's sustainable long term, and head for 5K. Just get into a 5K. I don't know if you have park runs in the Middle East, but park running is the biggest sporting initiative that the world has ever seen. That was born in, I think, sort of 12, 13 years ago in the UK. So a free park run every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. It's now in, I think, 800 parks around the world. Right. And you just register online, barcode, print the barcode off, laminate it, turn up, and it gives you a time, and it tells you how many park runs you've done, what your fastest time is. Then you're constantly competing against yourself and everybody else. Just get into that, because A, it's going to give you a great circle of friends that are into the same sort of stuff as you. B, you're going to, all the knowledge is there that you need, yeah? So you're asking people that are better than you how you do certain things, how you train in a certain way, what you eat, how you fuel the night before. All those questions can be answered on Saturday morning for you. And then once you sort of running 2 or 3 times a week, You can build up from there and then move to 10K or move to half marathon. There's no need to jump into a marathon. I've spoke to plenty of people that hate running because they've suddenly said, okay, it happens a lot in the corporate world because it's like, okay, I'm going to tick this box, I'm going to run a marathon, and they'll train for it and then get injured, and they'll be like, okay, I've lost my love for running, and so that I'm never going to do running again because that's a bad experience. Yeah.
What's that rule that they have where they say if you do something consecutively for a certain period of time, it becomes habit? Is it 22 days or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's about
22 days. So if you do something over and over again for 22 days, eventually it just becomes habit, and then you're in, and just so easing yourself into it in that manner rather than just going boom and going all in with a marathon.
Yeah, totally.
Or a 10K like me.
Yeah.
How much practice did you do before your 10K?
Yeah, zero.
21 days.
Zero.
21 days.
I had complete confidence in my youth.
Yeah. Yeah. Jamie, for those listening, Jamie joined us on the day that Caroline did her 10K as part of her recovery goals on her checklist after her accident. She had that on the list. She wanted to do that again. So Jamie and I joined her and kept her company and trucked along with her. An hour and...
Just over an hour.
Just over an hour, nowhere near an hour and 10 minutes. Yeah, but that was, I mean, look, those 10Ks are good fun. It's a big challenge for a lot of people to do that. Just the monotony of running for over an hour for people is the biggest challenge.
Yeah. There's one thing that keeps coming up is the motivation side. Like you've mentioned on several occasions, like a recurring theme of being competitive. If someone challenges you to do something, you say, yeah, I can. Like if someone says you're not going to be a runner, you become a runner. You can't cycle to Singapore, you do it. Where does that come from? Where does that drive come from? Because a lot of listeners will on the surface go, cool, sounds good, but you're running at an elite level. But you started off running for school around paddy fields. So where does that drive come from to spur you on? Because that's that competitiveness that comes through is so apparent.
So I suppose, like, growing up, came from a town just outside Manchester called Denton, and my dad was a footballer, and my sisters both...
At Oldham?
But no, he wasn't. He was pretty good. It wasn't bad enough for Oldham, but my sisters both played for England at sport. So younger sister played cricket for England, older sister played basketball for England, and my dad was just, whatever sport we wanted to play, he would just take us wherever, anytime, whether it was, badminton, table tennis, football, rugby, cross-country running, sports that you're terrible at and sports that you're naturally good at. And obviously you levitate towards the ones that you're good at. So then, and he was always like, with football, I started when I was really young playing football, 4 or 5 years old. And he was always like, it's not about how talented you are, it's the first to the ball. So I was a right back. So when I was 5 years old, I looked like 2 or 3 years old. I was tiny, and so he was like, it's the first to the ball. It's who wants it most, and it's just that as a mindset, whether you're in corporate world or sports world or any world, who wants it most? It's just that, and even now on the start line, you go on a start line of an elite marathon, and everyone is so tense and nervous because they've just spent 12 to 16 weeks preparing for it.
Yep.
I'm having the time of my life because that's the most exciting. That's the most exciting day of that 3-month period for me. And when I was a kid, I remember like going on school holidays, going knocking on people's doors, like, is Jamie coming out now? Is Mike coming out now? Because we're going to put the cricket nets up, and it takes more than one person to put the cricket nets up, and like. He's not even up yet. He's not even had breakfast yet. I was like, come on, let's get on it. It's sunny. So I don't have to knock on any doors on a marathon morning. Everybody's already there, yeah? So everyone's super nervous. I just feel really chilled because it takes me one question to think, right, okay, I'm in the zone. It's like, how much do you want it? And that goes for anything, like music as well. Like Noel Gallagher says it a lot. Like, how much do you really want it? Like, it's even in his songs, yeah? So the first to the ball is just a perfect lesson. So competitiveness in our family was not a negative thing, like an ugly thing. It was just a game. It was just fun. Yeah. Total fun.
Okay.
And when you take that as well to the corporate world, so I went after college to work in recruitment. I did lots of terrible jobs for a recruitment agency, like working in warehouses, all sorts of terrible jobs, which I feel is a great lesson. And then they offered me a job as a trainee recruiter. And then it's, okay, the better you are and the harder you work and the more you analyse your performance, the more you get rewarded. For me, that made sense. That's sport, yeah?
Meritocracy.
Yeah, total. So then I thought over the next sort of 10 10 years, okay, I must be really money motivated then because I'm good at this. And it was never that. I was never money motivated.
You love the game.
To me. Just love the game.
Yeah.
So if if the guy over the other side of the office is going to do 4 deals that month, I'm going to try and do 5, yeah. And if she's up to this over there, right, I'm going to see what she's up to and going to sort of do whatever.
So constantly learning, constantly taking in info, how to get ahead, how to better yourself, how to win.
Totally, yeah. And you know, we live in an age where we have more information available to us than ever before.
Absolutely.
Yet we're dumber than ever before, right?
Yeah.
And so if you want to learn how to run fast, like somebody talked about on YouTube, it's there on the internet for you. So it's very easy to quickly follow that curve and use your brain, yeah.
How much of that then do you think is genetic versus learned?
Yes, the
behavioural from your environment, from your parents? Because you mentioned about all your sisters being prominent in their sports.
Yeah.
Your dad, a prominent sportsman. Way off into a topic that I have no expertise in whatsoever, but just keen on your opinion, because for me there's obviously a link there too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously genetically, as you can see, I'm a specimen, you know. So
yeah, 62 kilos. 62 kilos, right through, yeah.
So there is. I mean, there's something in your VO2 max is inherent, right? So I have a high VO2 max, so that's there already. So when I'd not done any running before high school, I'd ran lots in football, and whenever it was like any sport, as I've said, but I can't remember ever being in primary school and going to a class and studying anything. It seemed as if I spent my whole primary school on the school field or school playing concrete playing fields, whatever, doing other sports with my mates. Yeah, so when it was the second week, I remember it very, very clearly. It was the Monday on the second week of term. There's 180 kids, and it was 2 laps of what we call the paddy fields in Odenshaw. I went to Odenshaw School, great sports school, and I won it by about 10 minutes. Like, I didn't have a clue. I had a rugby shirt on, football boots on, didn't have a clue, but it was like, okay, I've got to beat all these people around me because that's the game, yeah? And it was like, okay, and then from there, because it was so early on in the year, then it did me a big favour with all the sports teachers, because it was a very competitive sport. And we had a lot of guys who went on to play, like have scholarships with football teams around the country. Very, very talented sporting school, and lots of teachers that are still inspirational characters for me now. So they helped nurture that then, and sort of got me involved in fell running, cross country running, track running, and yeah. So does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Off topic.
One of the things you said there, you said you show up to the start line and you're buzzing, excited, chatting. That's pretty clear from your social media as well. You're a bit more lively than I don't follow Mo Farah, and I don't follow Haile Gebrselassie on any of their social medias. Maybe that's also indicative of what they're portraying, what they're putting out there as representing the stereotype of an endurance sort of athlete. But that's something that you obviously value or you enjoy, and you actively do that. Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, you know, for me, if you think of exciting sports, like I think of UFC is obviously killing it at the moment, yeah, because it's fascinating, because at any moment something crazy can happen, yeah. You can have a great fight against a mediocre fight, it can be a mismatch, but that guy can get a lucky shot in, right? So it's fascinating. Pay-per-view figures and the watchers are, you know, through the roof. It's a sport that's doing really well. Football will never be without money, yeah? Everyone's always, because so many things can happen, right? With running, like, to watch a marathon, even for me as an athlete, it's tedious, yeah? I don't watch it because it's tedious, yeah? I want to know the result, and, you know, I loved watching Eliud Kipchoge break the world record. I was at the Berlin Marathon, I watched it back, and that's great. I loved watching Breaking 2 Project, which was a Nike thing on Netflix, which was amazing because it got you into the mindset. But my point is that running is not an interesting sport to watch. And if you think about 100K, that's even more boring. As interesting as it gets.
3 times the pain.
Suffering.
So it can be like 40 laps of 2.5K loop, yeah? It can be 10 laps of 10K. And so it's not interesting. So how do you make that sport interesting? And it's through characters. And the sport has like insanely talented people, like people who can endure the suffering, who can plan. And so for me, it's all characters. It's like, why do you remember Muhammad Ali so much? Not because of, he's obviously a great boxer, but it's more about stuff that he did outside the ring, like the stuff he did in the Vietnamese War, the stance he took, and the sacrifice he took for 3 years outside the ring, giving the belts back. It's characters like Ayrton Senna, not necessarily the best in the world, but just amazing outside. And you watch football and you'll see sort of match of the day, and there'll be an interview after the match. How did the match go? And you could literally
say the
just
same thing.
Totally, yeah. You press a tape recorder.
Credit to the other team. They played very well. We knew we were up for a tough fight.
Yeah.
Insert opposition.
Absolutely.
Name.
Just
Well
PR'd.
Yeah.
Completely controlled. Stay on these 3 messages.
Yeah.
Don't be yourself. Don't say what you think.
Yeah. Don't answer
But
the
that happens a
question.
lot in most sports these days.
Yeah.
There's so much control around brand perception and image
Yeah.
that it's kind of part of the
Do you
game.
think about your image?
That's the point. Yeah, I mean, you have to remember characters. It's like, look at snooker, right? Without Ronnie O'Sullivan, what would snooker be?
Alex Higgins.
Yeah. I mean, Alex Higgins,
Yeah.
Jimmy White, Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Who was better than Jimmy White at the time? Stephen Hendry. Does
Stephen
anyone remember
Hendry,
Stephen Hendry?
yeah.
Not really.
Steve Davis.
Douglas Dishwater.
Right, yeah. So you have to think about that and think, okay, within running and like the budgets, I can name like a lot of top class Olympic athletes who've been to the Olympics 2 or 3 times who can't afford to pay their mortgages, will never be able to afford to pay mortgages, are reliant on their partner, or hopefully like they've come from rich families and will never make a living out of the sport, or worse than that, in a way, they have to choose the wrong races to do in order to make a living. They're not choosing the right races in order to sort of make a name for themselves or set records. They're choosing the wrong races because they have to go and make money. So if on the social media side, I feel that in athletics we've been presented with an opportunity that it's not just word of mouth or me being on a podium and like 300 people in a crowd seeing that I'm wearing a certain brand, Nike.
And relying on mainstream media to pick that up and feature it in some way, which has been the history of the sport, really.
Totally, exactly that. Now you've got complete control of it yourself. So now the people who follow you can get to know you as a person through things like Insta stories, not just a picture, which is like, filtered, but actually get to know you day-to-day basis. And it's not all, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's bad days and,
I don't know. I saw yours today. It looked pretty sunshine and rainbows today.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Rest day.
It's rainbows today in Dubai. I sat on a duck in a pool. It's brilliant. But then there's injuries.
2 days ago, you were in a hoodie in the desert.
Yeah, that was a bad day. That was a sandstorm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a sandstorm. but for people to get to know your character is quite new. Like to put out videos and short clips like that, most runners are very, very introverted. So for them to brag about a result or to talk openly about what they've done, and sort of maybe the sponsors are holding them back as well. I'm lucky that I'm with Nike, and Nike like, just be yourself. If you bear in mind the people that Nike have taken on in the past and taken chances on, people like John McEnroe,
Right.
like who's having arguments with referees every single game, swearing all the time, won't do interviews, will walk out of press conferences because they want characters, they want real people. So I'm really lucky to be with Nike, but it's a platform that can be used for you. So my point is that you can't it's very difficult to make unless you're Mo Farah or top level African. It's very difficult to make a living out of running. So if you really want to do this, if it is your dream, you've just been issued with a platform where you can actually become a professional athlete. And if that means making 3 15-second videos a day and posting 4 times a week on Instagram, I'm all in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll get the real me. I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to think, oh, maybe that will offend somebody. If you don't like it, unfollow me. If you like it, follow me. It's as simple as that. I'm not like desperate for being liked. So just keep it real.
That's kind of like the marriage between the extrovert and then in an introvert sport. But do you find that when you rock up on the start line or you're chatting to the lads after, do they have that capability to portray that themselves, or are you really just the outlier who's the only one that's doing it? Like if you rock up and there's 5 guys on the start line,
Are there any other characters?
yeah, do they have the ability to go? I can't even remember what the video was, but we threw a message to you to come on our podcast someday, and the video that came back was a teddy bear with sunglasses speaking into a banana.
It's my agent.
Saying, get your people to speak to my people, and I'll offer them I'll make them an offer they can't refuse. Right, here you are. But if we had said that to somebody else,
Yeah.
they would have just come back with a
Formal
text.
email.
Yeah.
A text and a chat, and maybe an email and a phone number, and okay.
Yeah.
So is there those people out there? Like, is there a whole bank of charismatic endurance athletes that we just don't know about? Because, sorry to just last bit, David Goggins is one. But his story is outrageous. His story is crazy.
Yeah, well, not everybody's got a talking teddy bear who's as an agent,
Yeah.
But yeah, there is, without a doubt. Like when I'm,
There
like,
has to be. There has to be. Surely, there's thousands and
just like
thousands of runners, like
any
elite
demographic,
runners.
right? So, like when I'm in Spain, people are a lot more vocal, and so we'll be on the start line and we'll be laughing, joking with each other. It will be like, "It looks as if you're limping, pal.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a bad day for you today." Yeah, and there'll be that sort of like
Sledging.
Yeah.
You know, in like Conor McGregor's an insane shit talker, yeah? And there's a reason, obviously he's insanely talented as well, he puts in the work, but there's a reason why he's made the sport what it is, yeah? So there's that sort of stuff that goes on in Spain, and I love it, and it's the
Part
art
of the game.
Yeah, it's the art of rugby, yeah? It's kill each other on the battlefield, have a beer afterwards.
Be a gent after, yeah.
Be a gent afterwards, exactly, yeah. So there is 100% characters, but then there's guys that, like, I've worked with a nutrition company called My Protein for a long time. I think it's 5 or 6 years, and they've supported me for a long time, and it's a great company. But obviously they've come from bodybuilding and powerlifting, where it takes on a certain type of character. They're not eccentric, but they're not eccentric. They're not interesting. They're just super confident, yeah? So it's no problem for them to post a picture of them posing in front of a mirror, right?
Yeah, the more extrovert, the more aesthetically concerned.
Yeah.
So branding around on social media is second nature to them.
Totally, yeah. So when you hear about these guys getting a certain amount of, and obviously now, fitness models on Instagram is a huge thing, yeah? And if they're getting a salary that is at least twice what lottery funding in the UK would give a GB athlete who's been to 2 or 3 Olympics, and yet what have they achieved? Nothing. But they're playing the game, yeah? They're playing the social media game, and they're bringing a personality. So when that went over to, like, okay, we're going to set up an endurance and make energy products and that sort of thing, and, can you help us with that and test products, etc. I saw an opportunity, but you can't look at an image of a runner and think, as a young kid, that's who I aspire to be or look like. So whereas you could do that with a bodybuilder, or
but why not? See what I mean? Why not? So what are the steps that have gone past us so far to get to a point where people with big bodies are glorified versus people who are running?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, but I suppose when looks are so important, people have this certain image in their mind what they want to look like on the beach. And if you've ever been to sort of Marbella or any sort of Ibiza or stuff like that, people look in a certain way. But what can a distance runner bring to the table? And that would be the sessions. People are fascinated by the type of hard sessions they do. What do they do as a long run? What is their interval session and the tempo run? And a lot of athletes are quite they like to keep that secret, as if somebody will just grab it, do it, and then become as good as them.
Yeah.
As if that's possible. It's not possible. So there's some great coaches out there who openly publish their stuff. Some great Italian coaches who coach a lot of Kenyans and Ethiopians and Eritreans and the best runners in the world. And that's the fascinating stuff.
It's like the idea of in tech, isn't it? Make it open source and get everybody on board, and everybody rise. All ships rise together, don't they? Like,
absolutely.
If you're together going that way.
Yeah.
But you said a couple of things that I want to try and pick up on. Talking about the salaries that the Team GB and probably multiple countries get, like the amount of commitment that people have to do to get to the top and to get on that podium, or even just to get on the competition in the first place. There must be huge sacrifices there. So what kind of options you're kind of coming down the route of, like, let's get the personality out there, let's build my own brand to kind of make myself more robust. Is there any other options, or do you think that's the only way that people should go in order for athletes to be able to carve out a living?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If you like genetically gifted, you've put in the work, and you've gone all the way through the system. You're 22 years old. You've had a scholarship. You've not even had to forfeit your education. You've just got a great scholarship in the US or the UK to run full time, and then you've been picked up by a sponsor. Brilliant. You can have a career, and it'll last a certain amount of years. And it's not like, a career in snooker where you're Jimmy White and you're playing, 55 years old. It's a very, very limited career. It's not, I don't think it's even as long as football. So even then, you need to fall back on something else. So that's still possible, and you don't have to. I've met plenty of people that social media is just not for me. Okay, fair enough. If you can earn enough money and have the lottery funding in the UK, get enough money from your sponsors, and do a good enough job where everybody's happy and you're getting enough money for 10, 15 years, however long you can make it last, great, no worries. But
how likely is that? What are the percentage of
very,
people?
Very, very few. So I'd say in the UK we've got maybe 5 professional male runners.
Wow.
Distance runners, yeah.
Who are just full-time funded.
Yeah, and it's the same story as
5
it was. Yeah.
in the UK.
And it's the same story as it was. Like
What would the US have? Like, what's the benchmark?
a lot more. So there's a big difference between the UK system, the US system, which is like
By state.
UK is the club system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2,000 or 3,000 clubs in the UK. So from where I lived in Manchester, in a 10-mile radius, we've probably got 30 clubs, yeah, densely populated with clubs. But the funding from the lottery and the exchequer funding is not filtered down. It's completely mismanaged, and that's a completely different topic that we can talk about if you want, but I'm having strong opinions on that. In the US, it's the collegiate system, and then you get picked up afterwards. It's very competitive. It's much easier to sort of be in sports over there. It's much more competitive, but if you've got talent, you can make a living very easy. So the top runners over there are making millions, yeah. Whereas in Japan, which is super strong in running, they've just had the world champion 100k, and they're ridiculously strong in distance running. And because they take people into corporate system, pay them a salary, maybe the job title is an administrator, and they just run full time. They just train and run full time.
Okay.
So it's corporate system. It's all about relays and things like that. And I'll give you an example. I think it was 2 years ago. There's something like four UK guys ran under 63 minutes for half marathon in one race in Japan. I think 70 guys did.
Right.
So it's ridiculous, yeah, because they've got the funding in order to run full time. And there's a huge difference between having to have a part-time job or a full-time job and trying to run full time. The huge difference is you don't train much more, you rest,
You recover, yeah.
and recover really
Because
well.
I'm just not to take you off your stride, but pardon the pun, but I'm trying to prepare for some of the marathons. Like in Dubai, you've got to go out super early because the heat by 8-9 a.m.
Yeah.
If I miss that window, if I'm running at 9-10 a.m., my day is done. I can't even open a laptop and figure out because I'm so brain melted. I'm fatigued. Like I'm not tired in the sense that I need to sleep, but I'll turn something on. I'll start hitting the key and I'll just fog. So I can't imagine the kind of recovery that you need after
I guess
40K.
the stress factor as well must play a part, because if you're part-time worker and part-time trying to be a professional athlete and compete, just living, getting by day to day, putting food on the table and a roof over your head, that must be a big worry, a big impact on performance as well, because the stress factor must be...
Yeah.
Totally, yeah. And you've got, there's loads of examples, but there's kids 22, 23 years old who've had to beg to get 2 weeks off in order to go to the Olympics. Can you believe that? Like, can I go to the Olympics? No, we really need you for these 2 weeks. They're working like in some kind of terrible job. No, I really needed 2 weeks.
In the UK?
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
UK. So you just have a boss who doesn't understand sport or doesn't understand the sport that they're in. And then, there's pressures. If you're a footballer, you're in 100 grand a week, you can justify to anybody why you do what you do and why you need to rest and why you need to have the lifestyle. If you're a runner earning, let's say, £10,000 a year, and that's in a lot of cases, like, there's a lot of runners on less than the minimum wage in the UK in order just to survive and follow their dreams. How do you justify that to a partner or a wife or who's been supporting you for so many years, or parents even? It's very difficult. So, again, going back to another avenue where you can make money, like, it's like for your sponsors, it's really, really simple. I view it very, very basically as it's like you go to a job interview. It's not what I can do for you. Not what you can do for me, it's what I can do for you. And if you approach sponsors in that way, because that's one of the biggest questions I get asked on social media, how can I be a full-time athlete? It's like, well, what can you bring to the table? What is it about you that's different? Because if it's just running, good luck, join the queue. But if you can bring something else to the table, then there's an opportunity for everyone.
Which is nearly always character.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah,
And if and with Goggins, it's a great story. There's lots of stories. Like Steve Ways holds the British record for 100k temporarily, and he was massively into drink, and had just a corporate lifestyle, and I think it was a programmer or something. Was 15, 16 stone. Now he's sort of like just a little bit heavier than me, and just had this innate ability that he only found out when he was 33 years old. Did his first marathon in 3 hours 17 or something, off 3-4 weeks training. Then did the next one in 2:40, and then all of a sudden just knew he had this ability. So stories like that catch the media more than somebody who's been working and grafting their entire life since 5-6 years old, because it's just more entertaining.
Yeah.
So how do you create story then moving forward? Like what's the future for you in terms of your positioning, character? What stories can we unfold for the future of you and running?
So as we spoke a few times about UK athletics and the funding, so completely dependent on UK National Lottery funding and another source of funding, and then there's from my opinion, too many admin staff, not enough money given to the athletes. When you get to ultra running, so much less. It's based on volunteers and volunteer coaches, volunteer managers, that sort of thing, and the athletes are of course not paid. You often have to pay for your own ticket if you want to go to a world championship, and that's not just the UK. That's it's a lot of countries. So if you want to run for your country, represent your country, get that vest, you pay for your own flights, you pay for your own hotel and things like that. So how do you make the 100k world championships and the governing body, how do they make it an interesting sport? Like you have to like, as the UFC sees done, you have to have characters competing against characters. So okay, Japan versus South Africa versus America versus like some brilliant guy in Italy, some brilliant guy in Sweden versus the UK.
So play on the country, the tribal mentality of country versus country.
Yeah, and then
as one start.
And then like, okay, well, ex-athlete from America's been running these time. He looks really in form. We've got this guy from Britain. He looks really in form. And then just there's so much more that goes into running 100k than running a marathon. It's great that marathons are there because it's mass participation. It's like something that a lot of people get into like later on in life, and they just want to, as we said before, tick that box. But
a lot of sports do it, right? A lot of sports already have huge country versus country World Cups, football, rugby, whatever it may be. So that's kind of fairly standard. So why hasn't the running community adopted something like that to try and spark that tribal following of national pride, which is a big thing right now? Patriotism around the world is a huge topic. It's
something more regular,
a powerful
than the Olympics, because the Olympics does it in one sense,
Sure.
every 4 years. But how do you make it a yearly thing where people remember? And they follow the story? Because I can't remember the person from 4 years ago's story.
No.
When they come around, unless there's a snippet before the race, and I remember that kid from whatever.
Yeah, exactly, and it's been like that since the 70s. This guy called Steve Prefontaine, who was at the I think it's Munich Olympics in '72, and he was at the time, to go to the Olympics and compete for America, you needed to be an amateur, so you couldn't take a contract from any company. You couldn't be paid. You had to survive on food stamps. Nothing much changed in the way that the sport is run. It takes a certain amount of money to put on these events. So in ultra running, the 50k and the 100k has just gone biannual and not annually. Which straight away, like 50% of your events over the next 10 years are gone.
Half your revenue.
And on top of that, events keep getting cancelled because they can't find venues. So why are we not learning from other sports? Like, why are we not seeing, like, okay, the World Cup football was in Rio. Okay, what's the legacy in Rio? What was the legacy in London 2012 Olympics? Are we using all those stadiums, or are they just going to waste? A track's being closed all the time in the UK. Yes, they are. Why? Because it's the maintenance on those facilities is ridiculously high, where the money will never come. Because like in politics, these governing bodies think 4 years ahead or 8 years ahead. So my view is that, similar to the way football will probably go, you'll end up getting maybe 4 to 6 venues around the world that will consistently hold these World Cups They'll have the infrastructure in place. They'll be great countries, but they won't have that massive loss that the World Cup brings.
Yep.
And the same with the Olympics as well. So we should do that as well with ultra running. It'd be very, very simple. There's huge costs for some reason involved in hosting a World Championships or a European Championships. The European Championships, 100K has just been cancelled for this year. So, you've been training, you've been getting ready for it, all of a sudden cancelled. Game over, yeah? So you can't.
Where was that supposed to be?
So the 50K World Championships this year in September in Romania, and the European Championships 100K has been cancelled. So, why has it been cancelled? It's like you have the IAU, the International Association of Ultra Runners, in place. Their job is to find these venues. Given it's not a very easy thing to do, yeah. Great event is in a place in Holland, very close to the German border, where it's just a 10K lap. You do 10 laps of this 10K loop. The whole village gets involved. There's a lot of volunteers obviously needed. The race goes on for 10 hours. The fastest guys are done in 6.5 hours. But
Jeez.
the fact for that to be cancelled when you've got 3-4 years to find a venue is ridiculous. Then you've got to ask questions like, how much does it cost to put on one of these events? And why are you not being transparent about those costs? Why are you not getting other people or existing events to host the World Championships or European Championships? Because everybody wants these events. Last year I was at the event and it was 60 nationalities. So it's totally 60 nationalities.
Third of the world turned up
Third of
for
the
an
world
ultra marathon.
Yeah, for 100K.
Wow.
And so if you look at the 10,000 meter World Olympic Championships or World Championships, there's a maximum of 25-30 guys on the track. Yeah. And usually, if you're lucky, 10 nationalities, yeah? So it's totally international. The Japanese, the Swedish guy has just become world champion a couple of years ago. An Italian guy was hammering it for 3 years. It's very, very international, yeah? So it is a great sport to watch and follow, and there's a lot of online following whilst it's on. Should just be as simple as, okay, let's cut the costs where we need to. Let's stop paying like executives to do nothing. Let's put more money into the athletes.
Is there only the IAU, or are there other bodies that do something similar for ultramarathons?
So yeah, so the IAU has been. You've got trail running association. Trail running has become more and more popular. Okay. Still very, very small portion.
Like feld running and that kind of stuff.
Feld running and long distance, like.
Just keep that mic nice and close to you.
Yeah, long distance, like 100-mile events in the US, and there's some in like Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc is one of the quickest race, one of the biggest races in the world, and that's sold out within 10 minutes of tickets going on sale.
And is it similar competitors to what would be at the ultramarathon?
Yeah, similar competitors, but people have realised, ultra runners have realised that there's no money in the road running. So if I can work for a company that sells trail running shoes or trail running equipment or mountain equipment and be an ambassador for them, there's actually
so they'll shift, even if it might not be the best option for them as an athlete. Exactly. They'll shift from a career perspective.
Exactly, yeah. And Steve Prefontaine in 72 was really big on. He was offered $200,000 in 1972, which I don't know what it equates to now, but a lot of money.
Yeah,
and
significant.
He said,
that's probably millions now.
Yeah, I don't want that. I want a gold medal. Yeah. And that's why we still talk about him today. He wasn't the fastest guy. He was fast, and he did break a lot of American records. But it was his character. It was the fact that he stood against the sport and said, "This isn't right. We shouldn't be amateurs, or have the choice of being professional and not going to the Olympics. Yeah. It shouldn't be that way." And again, he's another person for me, like Muhammad Ali, who takes a stand against the sport because he sees that it's flawed, and people are making money from the gate entries. From ticket sales and stuff like that, and it's not going back to the athletes who essentially, like, if you were back in the Colosseum days, obviously it's great if you've got gladiators. It's brilliant if they all get killed because you don't need to pay them, yeah?
Right, yeah. Yeah, well, let's not do that. But no, that's good. That's interesting because that then filters down into people entering the sport, doesn't it? Like if you're looking at your idols driving around in Ferraris and Bentleys, you're going to look at the footballers, you're going to look at the pop stars, whoever else. You're not seeing any endurance athletes or any Olympians really. Like,
well, you'd hope they'd take the bike, wouldn't you? Really?
Well, because you might have those basketball players from the pros from the US. They go across, so you see them. But that's one way to get younger people more involved in the sport is to be able to show that there is actually there is a fulfilling career in this. You can sustain yourself. You can make a living. You can earn some big bucks.
Yeah.
In endurance.
Yeah.
Athletics rather than just having to be a footballer or a social media influencer.
Sure. Yeah. I think we're small-minded in the UK, and this is just speaking about the UK, but if for instance, and this, I'm not going to name names, but an athlete goes over to the US and changes everything's been going great in his career, changes his coach and wants to train in the US, in a state where the sunshine all year round, great training facilities, the best coaches, medics, etc.
Real
on hand all the
appreciation
time.
for it.
Real appreciation for the sport, like totally packed stadiums all the time. Money's a lot better. And UK Athletics UK Athletics community will be like, why is he going over there? He's no longer part of us. He's like, just looking after his future.
Yeah.
And there was a famous female runner who's just won a European Championships. One of my favourite runners, Laura Muir. She's a trainee veterinarian. She's done qualifications in that, and it was the option of studying for exam or going to, I think it was the Commonwealth Games or some games, and it was like, okay, I'm going to choose to be a vet, because you would, because long term it's just not the money in the sport, which is, again, as I said before, it's completely fair enough, because it's not interesting enough. Her races are interesting enough, but the sport in general, it's not interesting enough. It needs to be something else. What's come out quite recently is the 400 meter mixed relay. So 2 guys, 2 girls,
right,
different countries, and the guys are obviously slightly faster, but who do you put first? Who do you put on second leg? Who runs your last leg? That mixes it up a little bit. So it's the sport is trying to change and become more of a spectator friendly sport. But I think we need to do better.
So how would you make one single event better? How would you make, like, right, there's this, what's it called, Mont Blanc? Is that what you said? There's one?
Ultra de Mont Blanc, yeah.
So how would you make that? Right, let's put all our focus on one every year. Cheerleaders, Red Bull airplanes, flybys, like beer festivals. Like what would you suggest is the way to make something stand out?
Do you know, it's funny you should say that, because there's a guy in the UK called Ben Pochi who has done exactly what you've just said. So he said, okay, I'm going to create a 10,000 meter race. There's going to be 6 races over the evening. We're going to have a beer company that's going to sponsor it. So there's beer from 5 o'clock. So the audience is enthusiastic. Yeah.
like the darts.
Yeah. And every single lap you run under a tent. So you're literally, the audience is here, you're 2 meters away from that
cool.
first lane, right? And over the night, it gets more and more competitive, to the point where there's world-class athletes in that A race. And that's now become the British Championships 10,000 metre race. So over the course of just 2 or 3 years, from him having a different idea, and in the middle, the interviews are done in, for instance, the Lamborghini. There's a circus going on, so it's like, circus acts all the way through. There's a top-level commentator who's live there. Things are televised now or on a live stream somewhere. So he's done exactly what the sport needs. It just needs, like, the boost of, it just needs modernising. It's as simple as that. So how do you do that with 100k? You put it in a venue like what I just said in Holland, and you just make sure that everything there is taken care of. So you're getting the athletes there, you're getting countries involved, you're making sure people are sending full teams, because a big problem we've got is in the UK is you're not going to if you want to go to the Olympics for the 10,000 meters, for instance, you've got to hit the standard twice. So you've got to hit qualifying standard 28 minutes or whatever, which is fair enough. Some people will do that. But then on top of that, there's a little small print, and also you have to have medal potential. So it's like we're competing against Kenya, Eritrea, Ethiopia. We're probably not going to medal in the 10,000 meters. Yes, we've got Mo Farah, who's an outlier, who's now moved to the marathon, so he's no longer going to be a part of this. So what we're going to see eventually it will get to a point where it's a couple of outliers versus the rest of that East African pocket. So for me, it's no longer the Olympics. If you remember the Olympics as a kid, it was people from all over the world who looked vastly different competing for one prize, yeah? And that was the beauty of the Olympics. The Russians versus the Americans versus the Chinese versus the Japanese versus the British versus everybody else, yeah? And so adding that medal potential, and that's come from the top, that's come from the funding. Mm-hmm. It's like our purpose is to win medals in the Olympics and the Paralympics and the major events preceding those. That's the purpose of that governing body, and that's come from the CEO down. Yeah. So again, it's just completely mismanaged. The purpose for me of athletics is to inspire kids to watch the TV and say, that's a guy who looks like me.
Yeah.
Well, that's a girl who looks like me, who I could potentially be. Yeah. And the same in any sport. Like he talks like me. He's from Yorkshire. He's from Manchester. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that could be me. You know, I just need to. And I remember, you know, we had the Commonwealth Games in Manchester in 2002. I think I was 19. Maths is awful, but I can run.
Yeah.
But I remember my dad saying, like, okay, you got 11 years to train for that. It's gonna be in, you know, or whatever, 8 years to train for that, and that was my goal at the time. So that's the problem. The whole concept of having medal potential is in sprinting. Okay, we're not going to beat Jamaica or the US, so we're probably not going to medal in. So what we're going to do? We're going to send a load of hammer throwers and javelin throwers and stuff like that. No disrespect to those guys, because they put a hell of a lot of work in from a very young age, but I don't know so many people who aspire to be a thrower or a jumper. Yeah, definitely. You know, if it runs in the family and stuff like that. But running is where we came from. Yeah, it's the most natural thing to watch a race where the first person to cross the line wins a gold medal. Something very special about that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that everybody can do, isn't it? Like, you just have to try it and see how good you are. Like you were saying, Steve. No, who'd you say?
Steve Prefontaine.
No, the other guy. The British guy, or the guy who was the alcoholic to lose in his 30s?
Steve Way.
Steve Way, yeah. So like, he found out later in life he can do it because he just put his trainers on, off he went.
There's hope for me, yeah.
Yeah, there's hope for everybody. So how would you then how else would you try and motivate kids to get involved?
I'd say, you know, if we look at the education system in the UK, you look at the curriculum, we do 2 hours of PE a week. You know, and I remember 30 kids in my class, that was the highlight of the week for pretty much everybody, apart from maybe 2 kids that brought a note every week from the doctor, yeah? So why are we doing 2 hours of sport a week when the life lessons that teaches you in sport, art and music, so much more than what we need to do in all the other subjects? So we're outdated completely in education. We're learning stuff that we don't need to know anymore. You know, everything... talked about this recently, but you know, everything you need to know you can find very, very quickly by a Google search.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That capacity to have to just memorize stuff and repeat it in an exam, it's kind of irrelevant these days, because everyone's got access to every bit of information in the world at a touch of a button. So
totally, yeah.
The system, therefore, is pretty flawed.
Yeah. So you go to school for 30 hours a week, and for 28 of them you're learning to pass exams, and for 2 hours you're doing something that is actually teaching you a lot of life lessons. Discipline, teamwork, what you put in, you get out. Communication, like, you know, not every day you're gonna win. You know, how to fail, all those things, and also like a variety of sports. So you know, what are you good at, and why are you good at that? You know, coordination and things like that. Everything I owe to sport. Like my idol is still my PE teacher. Yeah, it's like a father figure to me. And it was only until after school, this guy called Andy Trigg, you realise just how good he was, because he was completely modest, hard as nails, like skinnier than me, more muscular, and still holds all the local fell running records for running between 2 hours and like 15 hours, yeah? And never mentioned any of that at school. You just found about it afterwards, but you just saw him. This crazy guy is running around the 6 posts,
paddy
fields and the paddy fields, like every dinner time, and it's raining. What's he doing? He must be mad, yeah?
Yeah.
But like, there's something about him, you just want to be it. And of all the teachers, Jamie will remember this, that's the teacher you don't mess with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever he says is right. Yeah.
Lee and I went to school together, just to put that in there. Yeah.
So
Mr. Trigger's a legend.
Yeah.
So that, you know, that's still my idol. That's how I wanted to be like. So to be able to give back and to get kids into sport more, because naturally those teachers would say, okay, you have a natural talent in this sport. Okay, join a local club. We'll put you in contact with East Cheshire Harriers, which is my club from being 11 years old.
Roger Bannister's club, East Cheshire Harriers?
No. But then, you know, and then against the nurture, it's like all of a sudden you're given a coach who's sort of looking after you.
Yeah.
You're training twice a week, you're racing at the weekend, and then you've got school races on a Saturday, club races on a Sunday, and it's all there for you. And I was lucky enough to be from a town where there's 3 cricket clubs, so I was playing cricket, countless football clubs, and obviously those then create communities of sports people and people are constantly doing stuff, and you're learning from adults who are really into sport.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about those teachers and those young, those inspirations when you're young. You do hold on to some of those lessons. Like, for a young kid who's maybe good at running but not good at anything else, just deep down he's got a set of lungs on him then or her that nobody knows about, and you can't see it. Maybe they're not the best at school. The life benefits they'd get from running, with the exercise benefits as a bottom level, and then the endorphins and all that positive things. I think lots of people take up running when they're older because they enjoy it then, whereas it does have this idea that you're maybe a loner or you're out on your own and you don't have many friends. But trying to shift that perspective and just get people involved as a group, it's a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. And another PE teacher story is Mo Farah. Like, he loved football, didn't want to, like, football. His teacher was like, I think you may be good at running. Like, there's something about you, yeah? So he said, you could play football if you do a cross-country race, yeah? So all of a sudden he did cross-country race, but won by a long way, and then, obviously loved the winning and the competition. Then, he's the most decorated athlete of our generation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
that's the same point, isn't it? The whole kind of media side of sport, and why people want to get into football and now UFC and all the stuff that's dramatized and put out there in shiny lights. Running is not, and that obviously has a huge impact with kids.
Yeah.
So let's see if you can change it.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest thing on my Instagram is, like, I've said this a lot, but when I get kids using their parents' Instagram because on a weekly basis they ask me a question. When I get kids asking me, how do you do this and how is it possible to have one that wants to be a skier and he lives in Manchester, wants to be a skier, right? So how am I going to be a skier living in Manchester? You're able to answer those questions and I really want to be.
What was the answer there?
Well, you obviously your options are limited. We have something called a chill factor, so you got to be there all the time, but of course you've got to be realistic. Yeah, you live. In terms of success, one of the things is opportunity. The opportunity for me was you got running club, you've got teachers who are really everything within 2-mile radius that you need, all the training facilities. How do you become a skier if you live in Manchester? It's like the old bullseye joke. You have a look at what you could have won a speedboat. I live in Birmingham.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's you have to be realistic. But if you really want it, like, it's there for you. Yeah. You just have to persuade your parents to move to somewhere else, Switzerland, right? So it's not unachievable. It's possible. Everything's possible.
Yeah. I don't know. Running is something I got into really late in life anyway. There was my old school teacher when I was 12 used to have us run around the schoolyard, and I actually did have one moment where I thought, geez, I'm actually much better at this than I thought. Like, I wasn't winning things, but I just remember thinking, he's the fast guy in our class, so if I can stay right behind him for these laps, then I'll be doing okay. And then when we got towards the end, he was really struggling, and I was like, I'm going to go by him. And then he was the speedy guy, but he obviously didn't have the lungs. And I was tall and skinny and light, so with a longer stride. So that was one moment for me. I was like, geez, I'm actually not too bad at that. Yeah. And then I went back playing field sports, rugby, football, all that growing up. And it was a natural thing for me to slide into having bashed my head about 800 times a year playing rugby and broken bones and joints. It's like, right, I'm sick of this. These going out rugby training here when I'm just turned 30 and I'm up against 24 or 5-year-olds who are really quick and really agile and really committed to it. I'm like, I'm getting too old for this. No one's paying me any money for this. I'm going to go find. I actually just packed it in. Then I was like, you know what, I need to do something. Right, trainers on. Let me just see what this running thing is like. Just off I went.
Yeah. But what would be the impact of all of a sudden tomorrow? It was funny. I was recently in the Maldives doing a marathon. Yeah, and part of it was they want to get kids into sport. And there was lots of funny stories because they're very, very new to cricket and football, and outside that's very little. But met the president, the sports minister, the minister of tourism. They want to build running and running the triathlon and cycling in the Maldives, and it's just like, what would happen if Monday morning everyone showed up for school and all of a sudden it wasn't 2 hours because they follow the British curriculum, doing 6 hours a week of sport. What's going to be over your primary school years, 7 years? What's going to be the outcome of that? Is anything negative going to come from that? You're really going to miss out on anything else. Your religious studies, your science studies, whatever else it is. Yeah, is there going to be any negative that comes from that? I don't think so. Like, I was like, why don't you just get into your office? Speaking to the president, why don't you just get into your office and just sign it off tonight? And like Monday morning, everybody gets to school doing 6 hours of PE. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Did he buy it?
It was sort of like semi-bought in. We're in contact.
So then what's next for you then on the horizon? Like, what's the motivation? What's the plan now going forward?
So I want to stick to 100k. I think that's where I'm best at. I want to become world champion and set a world record in the 100k.
Cool.
So to do that, I have to run just under 6:10.
That's the target?
Yeah. And so it's like 3:40.
What are you at now?
Per kilometre. So I've ran 6:40.
Okay.
I was aiming for 6:20 in my last race, but I got injured slightly before. Just need you need
clean run.
I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say luck, because it's not luck. You need to put the work in, but you just need a tad of luck in order for everything to go perfectly. And yeah, you need to run 3:40 per kilometre. So it's possible. And if you get in a fast race, it's there for the taking.
What's a fast race?
If you've got a lot of like cycling, obviously if you're in a group, you've got, like, you're saving a lot of energy if you're behind a few guys, yeah. So it's something like if you're third wheel in the Tour de France, you're like Tour de France race on the flat, you're using 30% of the energy of the guy at the front.
Okay.
So it works a little bit like that. Obviously, you're running 15, 16, 17 kilometers an hour versus 30 to 35, 40 kilometers an hour. So
you're running 15k an hour doing for 100k.
Yeah. So that was my 15 point something k an hour. But so there's less of a benefit to run behind people, but certainly running a pack there's a lot of energy you save.
Yeah.
So if you can get to the question you asked me before, which I didn't really answer, was like, at what point does it really become difficult? Shouldn't be until that last 20k. Then it should become difficult.
And is that physically difficult or is that mentally difficult?
If you've taken the right salts in throughout the race and your nutrition's on point, your brain should still be functioning properly at that point. There is points when I've done races where I've got into work, and this is when I used to still have a job. I've done races where I've got into work on Monday morning, and I can't remember any of my passwords. So I've gone so far. I'm deadly serious, yeah.
It's a big problem.
Literally, something's gone on in that race.
Delirious, blackouts,
Yeah.
couldn't remember the race, couldn't remember my Outlook login with Gmail.
Seriously, I mean, I've finished races and gone to the bathroom, and it's you go for a pee, and it's complete blood. It's
Yeah.
blood, and so you push your body to a certain point because your mind is so much stronger than your body, and that's what Goggins goes on about as well. And that's, your mind stops before your body. So if you can take complete control of your body, and embrace. My thing is embracing suffering. Isn't it? You can't block it out. A lot of people try and block it out. You can't block it out. It's going to be there. Yeah. So you need to embrace it. You need to learn to enjoy it.
Do you run with a mantra? Do you run with, like, are you telling yourself anything? Are you self-talking? Are you arguing with yourself?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's either complete meditation. I can go for an hour and I've not thought of hardly anything, or I'm constantly problem solving or thinking of solutions to things, or I'm completely, like, I don't know if you saw a recent post I made about a race that I did in Chiang Mai marathon. Thursday I didn't want to do the race because it starts at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I sort of went through my thoughts in the race, and it was like, I'll just do it as a training race. And then it was like, a Kenyan guy went ahead, and I was like, I'm not having that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get beat. Like, I'm not getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to come second. So then, this Japanese guy went ahead. I was like, could have done with it a bit easy for the first 30k, yeah. And then they're playing around. I'm thinking, it's too. I'm grumpy. I'm still tired, yeah.
How far into the race are you? 30k?
So it's 25. Very early at 10k, they started to play games. I was like, lads, can we just chill out for the?
What
first
does a game look like in a 10k?
So somebody will surge. Somebody will go ahead
Right.
and play a game, yeah. And they can't sustain that pace, but you've got to go with them just in case.
Yeah.
And a Kenyan is capable of usually running 2:10, 2:15, And so you go with, if you look around you, there was a group of 8 of us, and I'm thinking, right, okay, 5 of these guys look solid, 3 look tired, right? One tired guy goes ahead, and I think, nah, let's just leave him to it. But then the Kenyan goes with him, like, why are you chasing him? He's knackered. Yeah,
okay.
He's not going to last the distance.
Are you ever talking to each other?
Yeah, I just have a chat and say, listen, you can see like he's breathing like he's going to run out of oxygen. Like in the next
You'll be chatting to these boys on the run.
Yeah. So it's funny, yeah. It's like, how are you feeling? Good. How are you feeling? Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
A lot better than you.
I'll take your good and I'll raise it to excellent.
It's real Arnold Schwarzenegger thing on that Pumping Iron documentary.
It's totally that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally that, yeah. It's like he should have lost that event, and it was because like all of a sudden he annihilated the Hulk.
Yeah.
And the Hulk was just shy on stage, yeah.
So you're doing that at 10, 20k, running beside these guys.
Going there, it was like, okay, chase him again. But and then there was a point where, okay, pass this guy. This is the Thai national champion. I was like, pass him. We'll pass him decisively. And I passed him, went past. I was knackered by this point. I trained all week really hard. It was just a training race. And then I thought I'd just gone past. I looked back and he was well back. I thought, right, great, I've won the race, just coast it in. Then 4k to go. Guys on my shoulder. I'm like, I do not need this.
Yeah.
Like, can we just leave it at that? Like, whatever. If you're running for the money, if you're running for the prize money, you can have it. It's just like, just let me win the race. I just want to win the race, go home to sleep. Yeah, I'm knackered. I haven't slept. And then
it's 4:30. Like,
so I thought I'll just blag it. I'll just run 500 meters hard, make the guy think I'm really in shape, and really still got loads to give. And
it's just like poker.
And that worked. It's totally like
bluffed
poker.
him.
Yeah, I bluffed him, yeah. And it's dark, so I couldn't wear usually I wear sunglasses, so you can't tell how much I'm suffering, yeah.
Yeah.
It is exactly like that, poker, yeah. And then after like 2k, we had to switch around. I had like 300 meters. I thought he's not going to catch me now. So then after the race, it was like, typical Thai, yeah. So it's Thai. You're on Thai time, so anything can happen at any time. It's like, okay, can I go home and sleep now? And the guy's like, no, presentation in 3 hours. Like, you want me to wait here for 3 hours? Okay, wait here for 3 hours, and it's selfie time because you're in Asia.
Yeah.
And then you go on for a shower, try and get over it, and then the presentation at 11 o'clock or something like that. So it's all fun and games, but it's just the mental side of it, and that sort of the fun of it. Yeah.
That's something I never thought about in an endurance. I would have thought at 100k races, he's way out, you're somewhere 20k behind it, the next person's 20k behind that. What's the longest race you've done?
It's meant to be 100k, it was 120k. It's in the Himalayas. I think I've told Jamie about this before. Just again, like, turn up to the Himalayas. It was a bright sunny day. I just come off a hike, and I was hiking for
Classic prep for 120k run.
I got a flashback of Zoolander. It's another bit where he just runs off into this like, we just done these magic herbal teas and we've been up in this space and all this. Sorry, go on. You just come off the hike.
So I just come off a hike. I've been out hiking for 3 weeks in the Himalayas, in the Annapurnas, so on the west side of the Himalayas, and I'm sat in a bar at 11 o'clock at night, drinking a hot chocolate. Reading a book about the first descent of Annapurna, because I've got this vision in my head that I'm going to climb this mountain eventually, yeah. And this Aussie goes like, "Are you doing the race, mate?" I was like, "That's my Aussie accent, by the way."
Yeah, I got it. That's, nailed it.
Yeah, from Birmingham. And then I was like, "What race?" She's like, "Oh, I just saw your shoes. You got running shoes on. I assume you were running." I was like, "No, what's the race?" She's like, and this is Thursday night. She said, "Yeah, signings tomorrow, and then there's a race on Saturday. I was like, "How far is it?" She said, 50k, 75k, or 100k, depending on what you want to choose. So I was like, "All right, I'll have a wander over to the hotel tomorrow and see what's happening." And all these guys are paying like a package holiday to go and do this race. And so I negotiated with this guy to get a ticket, and he said I could do the 100k, which I was buzzing about. And the checklist of the stuff that you needed was like War and Peace, yeah, like torch, jacket. Just thinking it's beautiful. Like, you don't need all this. 25 degrees. Map would be quite useful. I had like a Casio watch, no GPS, no map. My trainers that had done the hiking, shorts. Went out and bought like a bum bag. Just no energy gels or anything like that in this town. Just bung loads of Snickers and sesame seed bars in there, and then a bottle of water that I got from the shop, and I thought I'll fill that up at Rivers along the way. And then we got to this camp, and there's 200 expats that have paid this extortionate fee to do this race, and 200 Nepalese guys who are really strong. And it's like, breakfast tomorrow is at 6, race starts at 7. You know it's Nepal, so you know it's not going to be like that, yeah. But we get to breakfast at 6 o'clock, nobody's there. Okay, everything's postponed 1 hour. Breakfast at 7, race starts at 8. Okay, so by this point we're getting hungry in our camp, which is only 15, 20 people in my camp. And so we start having breakfast. This guy's making us porridge. And then at 7 o'clock we had this gungo, and we see like 350, 380 people run past. Like, that might be our race, yeah. So we quickly get ready. We're obviously really full, and there's some world-class runners at this race, like both international runners and Nepalese. We get taken by a police escort who goes the wrong way, so we run a few extra kilometres, and then eventually catch up to the race. Everything's going smoothly. I started to work my way through the field, and you don't want to start too quick anyway, and it's a long race, so it's not the worst case that we've lost sort of 10-15 minutes, but at 66k it starts like the heavens open, and it's like ice cold Himalayan rain. And I thought, this is why the jacket was on the list, yeah. That's probably would be really, really useful right now. So I'm sort of running along, thinking, if I see, you're not gonna walk, run past Decathlon or anything like that. You're in the Himalayas,
yeah.
Right? So now and again you'll see like a tiny little store with like little biscuits and stuff like that. But once it started raining, and then from 66k to the end, which ended up being 120k, there was 3 massive storms. So thunder and lightning and ice cold rain. Yeah, it was just freezing. And so I sped up to try and sort of get out of where I was and also warm up. But then everybody on the checkpoints had gone home, so they'd just be like, instead of because for safety reasons they've got to check people off. Yeah, okay, you're in the Himalayas, it's serious ground, yeah, and also you want to check who's in what position, right? But everybody just gone home, so you get to this point where it's switchbacks for 25k. Yeah, so you're just on this road doing switchbacks. Okay. Because the mountain's that steep, the road's got to wind so that these old cars in Nepal can get it up here. So I'm going up there and thinking. I'm passing a few people, and eventually I get to a checkpoint that's in a part of a shop. So the shop's open, I'm able to buy some candy, and the guy tells me what position I'm in. I'm like, okay, great, how long until second place? And I was in third place, and so then I didn't need all this jackets. I thought, I'm not going to be out there. I didn't need a torch, I thought, because I'm not going to be out there longer than 10 hours. I don't care what the terrain is. It's not going to take 10 hours to run 100k. And I did need a torch because it went dark, yeah. So then it's pitch black, it's cloudy, it's pissing it down, and it's thunder and lightning. So whenever it flashes, I'm like, great, I can see where I'm going. And get to the last checkpoint, and people are just must be 30 people huddled under what looks like a bush shelter. Like, please, can I borrow somebody's coat? By that point, I'm thinking, got to finish or I'm going to get hypothermia. Yeah. Okay. And nobody would part with the coat, and I didn't have enough. I had like $20 on me. Nobody would part with the coat for $20. Not in the freezing cold rain. So I hiked up the last 7k, which it turned into like a riverbed. By that point, there's so much water, so you've just got rocks hitting your shins. Again, you can only see when there's a flash of lightning where you're actually going, and there's just no safety. And I get to the end, and everybody's in their like little it's like a campsite. Everybody's in their like beds and stuff like that, who's already done the 50k and the 75k race. There's no food, there's nothing to finish, there's nobody there to greet you. It's just like, well done, thanks a lot. And then there's this Indian guy called Lal and a Malaysian guy who met me at the finish, like sort of put a blanket around me, got a coat for me, and I was like, I completely didn't know where I was or anything. Maybe 5k before that, I was thinking, I just need to lay down here, have a sleep, and then I'll be completely fine. Yeah, that would have killed me.
Yeah, that's those demons.
Yeah, and that's the closest I've ever been to death, without a doubt. Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
And I really, really thought, like, if you don't find somebody's like a light on at a house or something soon, I'm in the middle of nowhere, this is your last day. Really, I really, really felt that. And then I got to the end, and it was the presentation the next day. I was like, okay, great, I've come second, brilliant. And the results came out. There's loads of Nepalese guys in front of me. I was like, nobody's passed me. Like, how's that happen? Like, I've gone past loads of people. I'm being told by the checkpoint which position I'm in. How have these people got past me? And so eventually I'm second international and sixth. And then I heard that on the switchbacks, obviously the Nepalese guys know the area really well, so they've just gone straight up.
Oh no!
So instead of doing 25k, they've done like 4k or something.
Yeah.
Like that. And
So the extra 20k.
So we've done the extra 25k, yeah.
Wait,
So-
which
so-
is the legit track?
So the legit chat was you've got to do the.
Okay,
you've
so
gotta
you
do
went
25K,
the
yeah.
legit way, and they just
Yeah,
burned
yeah.
up the hill.
They just went straight up the hill, yeah. Which, looking back, if I'd have known about the rain and stuff like that, I probably would have done the same.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
if I would have known that they were doing it, of course I would. But it was just hilarious to see these like smiling Nepalese guys like, hey, I remember you passed me. But
Oh.
I've got the third medal.
Yeah.
So it's just really funny. But yeah, and that was the longest I ran. It was like 13 hours in the end.
You see, those are the stories that are going to make ultra races more appealing to people.
100%.
But
Just thinking the same.
But how do you have to endure and suffer that and commit to that to then be able to be one of the boys sitting here chatting to us, telling us those stories?
But then you have to be able to tell it. That's the other thing. I mean, I'm guessing that this happens a lot. These races go on all the time. Like, there must be a ton of these stories out there,
Yeah.
but no one tells them.
Yeah.
Am I right? I mean, you
Yeah,
tell me.
totally. Yeah, I mean, you probably heard about a couple of weeks ago, guy going out for a run somewhere in the States, getting attacked by a mountain lion.
Choking it out.
Yeah.
And choking
Yeah.
it out and killing it.
Exactly.
And you know, that was international news. But there's all sorts of stories.
Maybe that's what you need to do, go hunting
Yeah,
with
just
your bare hands in Thailand.
make up stories. Like, I had an accident last week, and like those people were saying, "Oh, have you done that?" And like, just after a bit, you get asked so many times, like the story gets better and better.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
There's a tiger and there's a bear and there's like crocodile and crocodile. Just got it in a headlock and it's like rubbing on its teeth and. But then you just yeah. I mean, in the Western States, the most famous race in the world, probably ultra race. There's loads of people being like caught, but they're going along the trail and there's bears there, so they have to just wait until the bear goes up in the tree in order to continue. And fires in Australia and like loads of stuff like that.
That's the platform you need to create and get those stories out.
Yeah.
Be the guy to talk to the people and pull out the stories out of the rest of the endurance athletes.
Yeah.
So now start a little podcast, take it to the start finish line in the Himalayas. Going, how'd you find that? Sneaking up the hill there in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
get that news out there. But look, thanks for coming to speak to us. We won't take up any more of your time. I know you're only here in Dubai for a short period of time. Is there anything you want to finish on? Is there any finishing comments or anything you want to shout out about Ultra and tell people how to get involved in it?
Yeah, I mean, if you can run a marathon, you can run, like, as I said to you before, like, if you want to get into running, start with 5k and build your way up and make it fun. So if you've never run before, just start with 30 seconds running, 30 seconds walking, 30 seconds running. Within doing that for 2 weeks, 3 times a week, all of a sudden you'll be able to run for 3 minutes, and then you'll be able to run 5 minutes, and all of a sudden you can do 5k, yeah? And if you have any sporting background, that's going to come a lot easier to you. And just, as I said, the basics, like, you know, like everything is available to you. So how do you run? You keep sort of your leg in line so that your hip, your knee, your ankle, your toe are all aligned so that your body's functioning in its best way. And then all the stuff that comes with the marathon, like the nutrition and stuff like that, everything's available online. So it's not rocket science. All the information's there for you. If you can run a marathon, you can run 100k without a doubt. Like, it's just a case of it's almost identical training. It's just a longer long run. And yeah, it's just the great thing about turning up to the World Championships is you know that you're stood next to a guy that is an absolute animal in what he does, and he's a taxi driver in Rome. He's been the World Championship
Really,
3
yeah?
times. Yeah, one of my heroes is Giorgio Calcaterra from Italy. He's been a world champion 3 times and ran the most times under 6 hours 30 ever, I think. And he's a taxi driver in Rome. That's the sport. That's where it is. Yeah. So you know, he doesn't. Obviously, he's 46 now. He doesn't know what Instagram is, but there's now an opportunity not to have to do that job. Yeah. yeah, he's done it and he's got to where he is, which is brilliant. But there is other opportunities, and in terms of the games and how the bodies are ran, we can do better. It's just as simple as that. Like we can imagine holding the World Championships 100k in Dubai. So simple. The infrastructure's here, the hotels are here, the airport's there. The track would be so easy. There's so much space everywhere. The temperature would be perfect at a certain time in the day.
Al Qudra,
Yeah,
straight in and
easy.
out. Beautiful.
So
they do
so,
it. They
so
do it.
easy.
The cycling. They do
Yeah.
hundreds of kilometers
Yeah.
cycling. Pick the same track.
Yeah, and it's it's in the middle of the world. Yeah, so it's easy for everybody to get to.
And they have to shut the roads down in Al Qudra,
Yeah. No. No.
which is a huge issue normally
Yeah.
with cities that can put it on. It's the road closures that kill it.
So if you know anybody with a company in Dubai who'd be interested in backing this type of thing, then you know.
Well, look, I'll get
onto
my
it.
people to speak to your people.
Hey, call the bear. Call the bear.
God, the bear.
Where can people get you on Instagram and anywhere else on social media?
You can get me on jungle.vip, and yeah, just go there.
Yeah. And
That's
what's
what-
the next race you're up for?
I may do the Scottish Championships in March. After that, I've got the Comrades Marathon in June. But I'll do stuff before that. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing next. And then there's the World Championships in September in Romania, 50k.
Right.
So I've got the qualifying standard for that. Just need to get picked. There's a few politics involved before then.
Sure.
And I love what I do, and every day I wake up happy and doing exactly what I want to do. So
Amazing.
loving life.
Yeah. Love that.
A lion, a duck.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, look, Lee, cheers for coming to
Yeah,
speak
mate,
to us.
thank you
Really
very much.
appreciate it. And next time you're in town, drop us a line. We'll get Caroline involved and
Yeah.
get Jamie in as well. We
Tap
won't-
me out.
We won't replace you. we'll make some room.
Cheers, boys. I really
Cool,
appreciate it.
Appreciate it. See you next time, guys. Thanks a lot.
Bye, guys.